I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Thursday, August the 26th, brought to you in part by Noromycin by Norbrook. Noromycin 300 LA is your go-to antibiotic for all kinds of infections in cattle, including pink eye and foot rot. It's available widely without a script. It's a must-have in your vet shack, in your pickup, or in your saddlebag. For more information, go to norbrook.com. Resisting the 130, and we haven't seen your major packers come in anywhere this week yet. Their bids are so far back from what's being sold so far this week that they have to pay admission to see what's going on. They're way back, and now we've got all kinds of regionals in the Midwest buying cattle at 130, buying cattle at 208. And buying them very readily, and I mean hand to mouth, like what I talked about in our last visit. But we're just not seeing any bids of any measure surface so far this week from your majors. They don't want to get up to that 130. They feel like that's an invisible barrier. When they cross that threshold, then it'll just be a landslide to 140. So they're not wanting to give it at all. I wouldn't sell them any cattle for less than 130. 130 is the market. So if they're not going to come to their milk and give any more than that, now I realize they're not going to get that in the Southern Plains because they're running at a significant discount, and we haven't seen any trade at all in Kansas yet, where just across the line they're selling cattle to regionals, several dollars higher. But I don't know what's going to happen here with the give and take. We saw your live cattle futures go down significantly on Wednesday, but I wouldn't be surprised at all to see them bounce back on Thursday. Yeah, we've had some deliveries that's pressured your spot market, your August a little bit, but they've kind of petered out too, so not a whole lot going on there. But your October is sitting just over 130. We're selling cattle at 130 this week, guys, and I don't care if it's a local butcher just carving them up, and I realize volume's a big deal, but we're selling loads of cattle at 130. But let's talk about your board. August live cattle futures down $1.37 at 124.42. October down 140 at 130.30. You go on your back months and they were down $1.12 to up just 10 cents. So mostly all down on your live cattle futures. August feeder cattle up 72 cents, and I can't tell you how significant that is. They were the only month nearby that was up. Now, I told you guys on your last visit that they have to come to meet your index levels, your CME cash feeder cattle index, which the latest available is 158.07. Yeah, it's on the rise because we're selling cash feeder cattle higher every day. But August feeder cattle ended the day at 159.30, up 72 cents. So going up right in the face of having to meet up with that index level, because it's a cash settled commodity right there. That's just significant. And for once we saw your cash market driving your futures, because the guys in Chicago started getting reports from feeder cattle auctions all over the country that were higher and sharply higher in some cases. And so it went up, but it's going to be interesting how those will come together. But I guarantee you they will come together here for the last day of trading for August feeder cattle. September down 62 cents at 165.15, but 165.15, that's a big gap right there, and we're trading that in the very next month. Your live cattle futures trade every other month, but in your feeder cattle, they trade in the months when cattle are moving the most. So we see big gaps at times, but like this August going right into September, that's not a very big gap, and a pretty good premium that September's trading to August. Of course, both based on an 800-pound steer. Go on your back months of feeder cattle, down 95 cents to up 17 on your farthest out. How about your fat cattle trade? We haven't seen a lot of trade, but we've seen some, and it's enough to me to establish the market. Of course, it's all regionals. As I mentioned, your majors don't want to get into the game and play. Well, just let them get by on your captive supplies. Let them exhaust those captive supplies, and then as we go forward here the next 2 or 3 weeks, they'll be just as desperate as your regionals are, needing cattle to fill their needs. So just let them do that. They want to get cute. They don't want to pay up for the cattle. Don't sell them any cattle. Keep the gates locked. How about Iowa? About 500 head confirmed on Wednesday, all dressed from $2 to $2.08 and kind of heavy on the $2.08. Nebraska, 1,300 head confirmed on Wednesday. Same quote there, from $2 to $2.08, but they're not all in there. Some of your smaller regionals are paying $130 pretty readily, and I'm hearing it and seeing it all over that northern feedlot areas, and not just in Nebraska and Iowa, but drifting into some of those other states. But Kansas hasn't traded a hoof so far this week. Now, Texas had a few cattle, about 600 head, 120 to 122. So, some of your auctions, online deals come into play there. But box beef cutout values drifting lower again. So the second day in a row that your cutout values are lower, and after this big run-up that we've seen here the last several weeks. But choice cuts on Wednesday afternoon, $346.89. That's down 69 cents. Selects down $1.21 at $315.69. Your slaughter is keeping decent pace here, and we're hoping for a big Saturday, because we won't have a Saturday at all next week because we got Labor Day weekend coming up, and most all those plants will give those guys a full long weekend off there. But 353,000 through Wednesday. That's 7,000 less than the big week last week, 1,000 more than the same week a year ago. Talk about Livestock Risk Services. If you guys need help with your LRPs, get a policy there to lock in a price there and not have to worry about any margin calls or anything like that coming down the line, but you need help with that, got an outfit out in western Oklahoma there, and they can actually help you quite a bit there with your Livestock Risk Services. But the best way to get a hold of them right now is to email dmoss@livestockriskservices.com. Some of your sales that are going to be happening here on Thursday that give me a little peek at what they're going to have. Enid Livestock Market in Enid, Oklahoma. Dakota Davis there, a friend of mine, been leasing that facility, is now the owner of that facility. He's here to stay. He's got his family moved down there. He's going to be in that market for a long, long time to come, and he's really making that big mausoleum work, guys. But he's got a good sale coming up here on Thursday. Starting at noon. He's got 250 head of 850-pound yearling steers coming from Jeff Robinette from over in Perry, Oklahoma. Got a neighbor of his coming in there. Tim Stout's got 120 head of same type of cattle there. You can get loads of yearling feeder steers right there. He's got some calves on hand too, but you can view and bid that sale at dvauction.com there at Enid, Oklahoma. Also a sale that's way up north, Stockman's Livestock in Dickinson, North Dakota. They've got many, many loads of yearling feeder cattle on their sale here on Thursday. Heard from John Fisher there, and he told me that you can sure get a lot of those drought out yearlings there. They'll be in a thin condition and green, guys. So, take advantage of somebody else's problems that they had with the drought up there, and buy some yearling steers that'll really feed for you. Talk about your brick and mortar sales. Real-time index on DV auction ended the day at 156.62. That was up 79 cents. So we're gaining every day on these index levels. It's right there with your CME cash feeder cattle index. Look at some of your big sales on Wednesday. OKC West, El Reno, Oklahoma, 6,700 head there. About 2,000 of those were calves that they had on Tuesday, and I told you about them on our last visit. But man, they had a heck of a yearling sale. Feeders on Wednesday. Feeder steers $2 to $3 higher. Feeder heifers $2 to $4 higher. And some of your best tested weights that I looked at on Cattle Market Central, I'm going to give you the rundown on those. There was 1,033 head altogether of your 7-weight yearling feeder steers. They averaged 766 at 156.90. 1,421 head of your 8-weight feeder steers averaged 850 on the button at $154. look at several other quotes that I'm going to give you, and it was just a big day. Wednesday was a big sale day this week. A lot of your sales that just run every other week were having a sale this week, and some of them were having specials, like Creston, Iowa had a barbecue special there, kind of a customer appreciation day. They had the world champion livestock auctioneer, my buddy Chuck Bradley, the Beast. He was behind the mic there. Russell Sleep, who was the world champion auctioneer there for 2 years previous to that, because during the COVID they didn't have one. But Russell sells there every sale, and that's his home sale there, or one of his home sales. And yeah, pretty good auctioneering going on behind the mic there in Creston. About 2,100 head of feeders there. And that's Kurt and Heather Spore Leader's sale, along with Brandon Fry, and really keeping that market going in that small community, and keeping it viable. But they had an awful good sale in there. You look at all these load lots of 8-weight steers here that I pulled out. They had a lot of other weights, but I was most impressed with your 8-weight steers. These ranging from $790 to $885. They did have, and I talked to some of the buyers there too, some cattle that were carrying some bloom and some flesh, and weren't quite as green and yearlingy as some of the other sales that we saw, but that was on the bottom side of that. Still seeing 150, 135, but most all your 8-weight steers well into the 160s, with the top price being 166 and a quarter. How about some other quotes from around the circuit? Cherokee Sales Company, that's Jared Herman there, Cherokee, Oklahoma. And just like we're seeing significant discounts on your fat cattle in the Southern Plains, we're also seeing your Southern Plains feeders not bringing the big prices. Of course, they don't normally get the prices. They don't have the quality of the cattle that they have in the North, frankly, and that's just the way it goes. But we're seeing a bigger disparity than we normally see, but still very impressive quotes. But Cherokee, Oklahoma, 63 head, 932 pound feeder steers, bring 152 and a quarter. How about Russell County Stockyards in Russell Springs, Kentucky? Now we're going way out east. I'm giving you guys some quotes from all around the circuit, but at Russell County Stockyards, they sold 125 head of 824 pound steers in one swath there at 155.75, standing in the ring right there in Russell Springs, Kentucky. How about another Southern Plains sale there? Ashley Nolan, my friend at Texhoma Livestock Exchange. Gosh, has he got that fire built under that sale there. But he sold the Freeman Ranch cattle right there. Now these cattle come originally from Riverton, Wyoming, as bought as calves, and then they grew them right there around Texhoma close. But 211 head of 909 pound feeder steers in Texhoma, Oklahoma, bring 154 and a quarter. How about Stockman's Livestock, Yankton, South Dakota? I talk about their fat cattle auction pretty regularly, and talk about the feeder cattle auction quite a bit too, but Greg Reichen there, the owner, he gave me a heads up on them. And then they had big steers selling really good, but the most impressive quote that I saw come out of there was a weight that we're not seeing a whole lot of, but 96 head of 617 pound steers in Yankton, South Dakota, bring 186 bucks. I thought that was a big time quote. But none of the big time quotes can measure up to Bassett, Nebraska, when they have one of their specials. My goodness. Bassett, Nebraska, about 3,300 head of feeder cattle there. And I'll give you a rundown on your top quotes there. In your best tested weights, you look at this automated market report from Cattle Market Central. 234 head of the 7-weight steers averaged 748 at 171.11 on 7-weight steers, guys. 554 head of the 8-weight feeder steers averaged 853 at 165.36. 938 head of your 9-weight steers averaged 950 on the button, with a weighted average price on all of them at 162.19. Wow. Look at some heifer quotes. 491 head of your heifers in the 8-weight category averaged 855 at 150.47, and 339 head of your 9-weight heifers, It's hard to make a heifer weigh 9, guys, and they had 339 head, averaging 943 there, with a weighted average price on all those heifers at 144.55. But the best quote that I saw included in there in your Zach Tran top quote for the day come out of Bassett Livestock, Bassett, Nebraska. 61 head, 997 pound steers. That's scaring the hell out of a 1,000-pounder at 169.25. That's your feeder flash for Thursday.